watching this, you're watching on live, watching on YouTube, in the work. Now, secondly, my name is Augustus C. Foster, host of the Mantalk podcast, author of Divorce Dad Reset, author of the soon to be released Divorce Dad Reset remix, contributor to the Collision with Purpose project, and a mentor for Global Humanity Network. I do a lot of things. And the most important two things that I tell people that I am are a follower of Christ. And man, I'm quite literally somebody's daddy times five. So, welcome to another installment of the Man Talk Monday podcast. Today's episode, Individual Daddying, the lesson in many. So, yeah, welcome. Thank you. The great words of every preacher in the history of the Church of God in Christ. I'm not going to be before you long. Uh, so, I'll get to this quick. So, I decided to do this episode actually around a week or two ago, but didn't get the actual time set aside to record it. So today it's a little bit of lull in the action at the house. I've done the majority of honeydew task and family related things, so I'm carving out a little bit of time to do this. Last week it was heavy work on the book, which October 1st, 2024, Divorce Dad Reset Remix will be dropping. I'm super excited. Way more pages, way more detail, 2 years later, and the amount of feedback I received from the initial release of the first book, which was 5 quick, easy, simple steps chopped down into about 7 pages of a book, had good sales, not great sales, that I wasn't tripping, excited about the impact than the impression. And the impact it had opened so many doors and opportunities for me to speak at public speaking and engagements, event, countless podcasts, recordings, spaces, people's Instagram, everything in the last 2 years. I've been super blessed to be able to share conversations and insights on how to be an effective survivor of divorce, because that's what I am, a survivor of divorce. And the hats are already out. I'm gonna see if somebody owns a copyright, but a child support veteran. But yeah, man, I'm really excited to do this episode. Like I said, I was able to carve out some time today. So, individual daddy and the lesson in many. And this came about in a conversation I had on Bridging Generations Voices of Men, which we do every Thursday at 7:30 uh, Eastern Time, 6:30 Central, 4:30 Pacific. If you get a chance, absolutely tap in. What occurred was, on the episode, it was Dr. Stevenson asked me the question of how do you deal with difficulties or conflicts between kids. And I realized there are so many men who have many children. That's why I titled this A Lesson in Many. And despite it being a lesson in many, and even my response that I provided on Bridging Generations, even though I have multiple children, I have to show up for them individually. Let me break that down so that I don't sound fake deep or fake wonderful. Uh, I actually posted this on Threads because I'm leaning away from X and my man, the Tesla dude. So, what I posted on Threads around 3 weeks ago when the episode was filmed was exactly that. Uh, if you're a father who has one child, you show up for your kid as the best you can possible. And I'm not saying this isn't applicable to fathers with one child, whether it be son or daughter. But for those of us who have multiple kids, you're dealing with a lot of attitudes, a lot of mood swings, a lot of spirits, a lot of everything when you have multiple children. And what I picked up was, with all of these kids and their different mindsets, their different likes, dislikes, isms, schisms, I can't show up as Augusta, the father of Anisis, the same way that I show up as Augusta, the father of Annalise. Now, of course, one is 14 and in high school, and the other is soon to be 6 and in kindergarten. They have different mothers. They live in different states. They have different taste in food. One is really like digging anime and fashion. The other one is super into whatever is dope on the iPad that day and asking people if they love Jesus. Outside of those total differences, all of my motley crew of children has different attitudes, likes, dislikes, isms, schisms. But what I learned is the father that I show up for my oldest daughter, for Nisus, has to be a different father than the one that I show up for Annalise. I'm about to go through all my kids' names right now. So if you want to get up and grab a drink, grab a coffee or water, or take a potty break, here's your opportunity because I'm going to go through all the names. But in all reality, to be an effective parent, we speak a lot about active listening. Active listening is an integral role, an integral part of being a good parent. In fact, I would say, big word of the day, you being a present parent, actively listening is germane to your success. So what do I mean by active listening is germane to your success? I don't mean Jermaine Jackson. I mean Germane. Germane, carrying a level of importance, needs to be done. You have to do that active listening and not just listening for the sake of listening so that you could spout a response to your kid, which a lot of times we do, specifically as fathers, carrying that role of, at times somewhat authority and power figure, if you will. Disciplinarian is another term. And we moments where we kind of wait for our kid to say something so we could give the retort. When in all reality, the active listening is sitting back and shutting up and listening because you want to listen, listening because you're interested in the response, because you want to hear some reasoning. You want to know, hey, why is your kid not being successful in this class? Why is your son jumping from there and you told him not to? What is the reason? Not necessarily an excuse, but what's the articulation as to the why? What is the why, man? What is the why? If you sit back and when you do that listening, specifically as somebody who has multiple kids, I've learned I have to do this listening. It's mandatory. It's needed for me to be successful with them. And the reason is I can sit down and I can listen to my son, my only son. My son is in the middle. For those who know, for recap, uh, I'm a every kind of dad. I've been a stepfather, an adoptive father, a natural born father, a divorced father, a long distance father, a father on child support, father not on child support. I've run the full gamut, stepped in, mentored, uncle, all that. I've checked the boxes. So I've realized that who I show up for, specifically for my son, the man I have to be for my son, the man who's a little bit firm on him to show him, hey, man, I'm not playing, I mean business. But at the same time, loving enough to go, hey, look, we can learn from these mistakes. It's okay to show these emotions. Be careful with your vulnerability, protect yourself. All of those things that I share with him at times are very male specific so that he learns those lessons as a man. Now, I can't show up and give these man lessons about strength yet being vulnerable, about firmness but also having love. I can give these to my daughter, sure, or to my daughters. However, I got to do it in a different way. It's not just a gender thing, it's because each of them learns differently, each of them processes differently. One of the greatest teachers, skip that, the greatest teacher I ever had in my life, and I hope Joseph watches this. Shout out my boy Joseph. Uh, Young Silvers, old Silvers now. We older. We're older, bro. Um, Joseph, myself, Vicente, Saeed, Daniel, Eddie, Keejan. I look at pictures of myself in like the second or third grade. Best teacher we had was a lady by the name of Sharon Wheeler. Full name was Sharon Gaddis Wheeler. And the thing with Miss